The Cincinnati Bengals lost the Super Bowl Sunday night with a score of 23-20, and what a season for them it was. They went from 6 wins combined in the previous 2 years to having half of that number, 3, in postseason wins in the past month. A true turnaround for this franchise who, while they did have a lot to look forward to begin with the Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, and 3 receivers, there's nobody that saw this coming. Not even the most Skyline faithful would have told you 6 months ago they'd be a drive away from winning the Super Bowl, because that would have implemented that they at some point would have to beat teams like the Buffalo Bills, the Kansas City Chiefs, and Tennessee Titans in the playoffs, if not all 3 on their way to the Super Bowl. Well, the Bengals beat 2 out of those 3, which included a 3-score comeback in Arrowhead Stadium, which is a notorious tough place to play. And after a Super Bowl loss, the question becomes, what's next? Because as we know, it's not easy for a team to lose a Super Bowl and come back and win the following year. Yes, it's been done and it's certainly not impossible, but we will break everything down in today's video, so without further ado, let's begin. 70 may be just a number to some people, but 70 is also the amount of sacks Joe Burrow took during the course of the 2021 NFL season. Notice I didn't say regular season, it's the entire season, from week 1 to a couple of days ago in the Super Bowl. And here's a clip of back in week 1, big Michael Pierce from the Minnesota Vikings tossing aside the Bengals center like it's nothing and sacking the young franchise quarterback like it's nothing. In other words, this is a 350-pound man drilling Joe Burrow with little restraint. Joe had a tremendous second season, and I congratulate him on the success he and his team had, but if the Bengals want to have long-term success, they cannot have David Carr 2.0 on their hands. For all the right they have done by putting weapons around Joe Burrow, including his former college teammate Ja'Marr Chase, which they took a hell of a lot of criticism for at the time, they have done equally wrong on the offensive line, and Von Miller and Aaron Donald were certainly stressing the Bengals' offensive line in the Super Bowl repeatedly. From Jeffrey Simmons in the divisional round of the playoffs to Chris Jones in the AFC Championship game to Aaron Donald, it was like moving up the ladder in terms of defensive tackles, with Aaron Donald, the GOAT of the 21st century, being the final boss. And yes, they did even play Max Crosby in the first round, who is a stud in his own rights, though not a defensive tackle. My point is, you may get a single game in the postseason against the team that doesn't have a tremendous edge rusher or a defensive tackle or pass rush in general, but there's a reason why, aside from quarterbacks, pass rushers are often drafted near the top of the draft. Think Myles Garrett, Chase Young, you can even throw in Jadeveon Clowney, and as crazy as it sounds, it's to try and stop the opposing team from passing the football down their own team's throat. And the point here is this won't be a problem Cincinnati can run away from. This is very much they're going to have to attack this head on and bite the bullet and spend either a lot of draft capital on offensive linemen or make a big splash in free agency like they did a year ago with Trey Hendrickson, the pass rusher, who very much proved his worth during the 2021 season. The only problem with the Bengals is they have a lot of free agents, including starting left tackle Riley Reiff. And what I do think is the most absurd or crazy thing around the 2021 Cincinnati Bengals is they had the season they had, the postseason success they had, with not even close to an average offensive line. If the Bengals had an average offensive line, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say they win the Super Bowl against the Rams. And we're talking 50th percentile among offensive lines. I'm not asking for a 1990s Cowboys offensive line with multiple Hall of Famers on it here by any means. Again, that's woulda, coulda, shoulda, but they need to protect Joe Burrow. And one thing I want to reiterate is, yes, they do have the 31st pick in the draft, but that does not necessarily, and you'll understand where I'm going with this, that doesn't mean force an offensive line pick if the value is not there. You don't want to draft, we'll say, the 58th or 60th best player in the draft in what would be the best offensive lineman available at the time, and what would also be a project pick, just to try and say, well, we did our best to protect Joe Burrow, and you get where I'm coming from here, right? But the Bengals' number one priority this offseason is O-line, O-line, O-line. And what worries me immensely with Cincinnati's future is how loaded the AFC is. There was a stat that said in the last 45 years, 27 quarterbacks have lost at least one Super Bowl, and only 4 have come back to win one later in their career. They were John Elway, Peyton Manning, and Tom Brady twice, so 3 total but in 4 separate seasons. That's incredibly long odds for the Bengals to get back and win, and granted it's only been a year since the Chiefs lost, but who knows if Patrick Mahomes will get back and win another in his career. You'd like to think, right? But a decade ago when Aaron Rodgers had one and was coming off of a 15-1 season in which they lost to Eli and the Giants in the playoffs, you would have certainly thought there were plenty of Super Bowls in his future, only for him to never get back, at least not yet, and win 4 regular season MVPs. Again, I'm not speculating the Chiefs don't win another, to be clear, but my point is when the list is 3 Hall of Famers in Elway, Manning, and the GOAT himself, it's not as easy as, well, we have our guys and we will for sure get back because of Joe, Jamar, and the gang. For 2022, the Bengals will be playing a first-place schedule and will play the Chiefs again, along with a healthier Ravens team and the Bills all at home. Surely the home games against these teams will benefit Cincinnati, but they will still have to travel to Dallas, New England, and Tennessee, and with increased expectations comes not everybody's 100%, but their 105%, as we can call it the way it is now that the season is over. I would be willing to bet a lot of money. Some NFL players were annoyed by all of the hype the Bengals were getting, especially teams within the AFC North, and really more specifically, the Baltimore Ravens, who got beat twice, each by 20 plus points, and were embarrassed at home when Jamar Chase had 200 plus yards on them, and then later in the year when Joe Burrow threw for over 500 yards against them. And the second game, at least to be fair to Ravens fans, was against atrocious corners, as I'm not exaggerating, they were down to like their 10th corner, but the reality is Joey B beat them in Baltimore when they were, for their standards in 2021, relatively healthy. So when these teams meet next year, Baltimore will be foaming at the mouth and then some to get their shot at the defending AFC champion, Cincinnati Bengals, as will the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, who lost not once, but twice within a 4-week span as well, including being sent home on their own turf. And I will go ahead and say I'm not worried about Joe's ability to perform under pressure or with increased circumstances. What I am worried about is defenses teeing off if this offensive line is not addressed heavily in the next couple of months. Because not only will the Bengals be playing a number 1 ranked schedule because they finished first in the division, again, congratulations to them, they also still have to play Myles Garrett and TJ Watt, and Myles alone had 2.5 sacks during the 2 games they played in 2021. The Bengals in 2022 will be getting a feast of pass rushers, and that's not including the aforementioned Watt and Garrett, who, by the way, alone take up nearly 25% of their schedule and will for the next few years, and you could honestly say half-decade, maybe even longer. A point I made earlier in the video of this isn't a problem the Bengals can dance around or get by with below-average play and coast off of the talent they have, because if we're being honest, the Bengals had incredible injury luck this year. Please know, that's not taking away from 3 postseason wins and a near Super Bowl win because they had to perform to get the results they did. Please understand that. But the division rival Ravens had nearly 20 players on IR at a point, while the Bengals were, for the most part, healthy. How does the Bengals season go if Joe Burrow has the season Baker Mayfield had, with seemingly every injury known to man, or misses a few games for various reasons like Lamar Jackson did? You see what I'm saying? This is also a big reason why I put out a video a few weeks ago that was titled, "The Cincinnati Bengals' future may not be as bright as it seems for all of these reasons." And again, I don't want it to come across as I hate the Bengals and I want them to fail, because I don't. I root for them and actively do whenever they play other teams, and I've worked with Tyler Boyd before. He's a great guy, and I wish him and his team the best. Also, to kind of lighten the mood here, I didn't mean to get, kind of that deep, but Eli Apple should just pack his bags now. If he were a player on my team, I would fry the hell out of him on Twitter. Him tweeting at Tyreek Hill and McCole Hardman about getting them tickets to the Super Bowl was truly ridiculous given who he is as an NFL player. I do think it is safe to say Eli has played his last game as a Bengal. But I also try to be realistic with teams' goals and expectations throughout the year, because my goal is to never put out content like, for example, the Saints beat the Packers Packers 38-3 in week 1 this year. I didn't want to put out a video a day later and say, is Jameis going to lead them to the Super Bowl on a 19-0 or 20-0 run, right? That's just not going to happen. But to suggest the Bengals are screwed and waste 10 minutes of your time is simply not the case. But in the same sense, it wouldn't surprise me if they don't make it back to the Super Bowl for a couple of years, if not half a decade or so, because of the loaded AFC. Bottom line, protect Joe Burrow. Now that's all I have for today's video. I will produce a video on the second channel soon, and the link for that is in the bio. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Let me know if you did. Please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Now's the time I ask for that. Also, be safe until next time. Have a great day. Love you guys.